Welcome back to PC Builder. I'm Jason. 2024 CPU prices are going absolutely insane. We've got massive price cuts, especially on the Intel side. There might be a reason for that we'll talk about in the news section. And Ryzen 9000 might be coming sooner than we expected. Should you buy now or should you wait? We'll also cover the best price performance, gaming, and production CPUs at every budget level. So if you get value out of this video, please give it a like because it makes a huge difference to the channel. And of course, subscribe, click that bell icon. That way you get notified when we release cool content. With that, let's jump into it. Before that, this video is sponsored by VIP SCD Key. Say goodbye to crazy expensive Windows 10 licenses and that terrible Activate Windows 10 watermark. Right now, use the links in the video description, head over to VIP SCD Key, and get a Windows 10 Home or 11 OEM license for a great price. Pick your product license, then use the PC Builder discount code PC25 for an additional 25% off. Go to the activation settings on your PC, put in the code, and boom! You have a fully licensed Windows 10 or 11 for a crazy low price. Use the links in the video description. Let's jump into 2024 CPU prices. And we're going to start off on the AMD Ryzen side this month. Potentially the last time we see this spreadsheet, just saying, without Ryzen 9000 series CPUs, Zen 5 based CPUs. We'll have to see. We'll talk more about that in Should You Buy Now or Should You Wait, as well as the news section. Let's start off with the number 2 best-selling CPU on Amazon right now. That is the Ryzen 7600 and 7600X, down to its Black Friday pricing of $199. And yes, I know it's been kind of dipping in there every so often, but it's been solidly that price for quite some time now. And it's a great value at $199. Remember, no real difference between the 7600, 7600X, just grab the cheaper of the two. All-time lowest price for the Ryzen 7700 and 7700X, $291 right now over at Newegg. Remember, check out those links down in the video description for pricing and availability in your region. There is a difference between the 7700 and the 7700X. The 7700 comes with an included Wraith Prism cooler, which is actually a decent cooler with it, and it's the cheaper of the two right now, so this is definitely the one to pick up for $291. But let's talk about the number 1 Amazon best-selling CPU right now in quite some time, honestly. That is the Ryzen 7800X 3D. $384. So what is going on? The price of the CPU just keeps going up. From its Black Friday low price of $348, now it's $384. They've reversed the numbers basically. I don't like it, AMD. What are you doing to me? I think what's going on here is AMD realizes they've got a winner on their hands. Intel doesn't have a lot of response to it. We'll talk about Intel CPUs in just a moment. So they're just really hammering the price on this thing to get all the value. Then the rest of the CPU prices, quite honestly, for the higher core count CPUs, kind of bonkers right now. Let's skip over the 7900 and 7900X 3D to the 7950X. That CPU went up $112. What is going on over there for this? This is the regular 7950X, not the 7950X 3D. That's actually a cheaper CPU. I have no idea what's going on. I checked at Newegg, I checked at Amazon, I checked everywhere I could think to check, and this is the best price I can find for it, $620. And this is sold and shipped by Amazon. Are they running out of these CPUs? Is that what's happening here? They're getting ready to switch over. Jumping quickly over the Ryzen 5000 series CPUs, and there's some crazy stuff going on. Let's start off with good news, and then we'll get to the bad news. The Ryzen 5500, great budget gaming CPU, down to $92. It's the lowest price, and since I can honestly remember, and great value motherboards out there as well. I've also seen price cuts right now over at Newegg with the $6 promo code. But unfortunately, the Ryzen 5600, what is going on? The price of that CPU is just steadily climbing up to $144. The 5600X has also kind of floated in that price as well, but it's $10 more right now. $10 more right now. And honestly, AMD, what are you doing? This has been the best budget gaming CPU out there, but you're putting it in some danger, as we'll see, because Intel has cut some prices. The rest of the stack, no real change. The 5700X does get an $11 price cut down to $169, but the 5700X 3D, 5800X 3D, largely unchanged. Let's jump into Intel CPU pricing for April 2024, and we've seen some massive price cuts. Look at those price cuts across the board, and they're hitting Black Friday level pricing on most of their CPUs, which you can ask, is it too little too late though? Let's talk about the performance of their unlocked CPUs. This is where the dividing line typically is for Intel. It's either the unlocked 13th and 14th gen CPUs, or you've got locked CPUs and the 12th gen unlocked as well. Let's start off with the high end, 14900K, $534, really no change on any of their quote unquote 14th gen that are really 13th gen, except for the 14700K, which does have 4 additional E-cores. And we've called one of the best price to performance production CPUs out there, $378 right now. 14600K kind of maintains its pricing, actually goes up $5 to $294. But the real value out here is like the 13600K, down to $244. $244 for the 13600K is a pretty dang good price. We'll have to see if it can unseat Ryzen 7000 in terms of price to performance gaming CPUs, because those Ryzen CPUs have also come down in price. 13700K also gets a price cut to below its Black Friday level of $324. Again, another potential one to look at out there. Taking a look at older generation Intel CPUs and their locked CPUs, which have a lower performance level, not much change. 13500, 13400 though. Look at that, a huge price cut. Now remember, this got to $165 over the summer. I have no idea why the CPU is so expensive, because it's worse than 12600K, which we'll get to in just a moment. $174 right now. It still does it justify its price? Not when we're talking about, look at the 12600K. The KF version is down to $154. That's a 16% price cut. That is a cheap CPU. That is a cheap CPU for 10 cores. So you get 6 performance cores and 4 E-cores, and it's going to outperform like a Ryzen 5600 in terms of gaming, or the 12400 in terms of gaming. $154 out there right now. It may be tough to beat. Another one that might be tough to beat right now is the i7 12700KF. Huge price cut, way below its Black Friday price. It's down to $232. Now, we have seen it get on a flash sale down to around this range before, and I've called it a great value, especially if you're looking for a cheaper production system, maybe a video editing system. And gaming, it's no slouch in terms of the mid-range. $232 right now over at Amazon. But if I'm AMD, the one CPU out there I'm probably a little worried about in the budget category is the i5 12400F. Down to $134. That is its lowest price. Its lowest price comes with included stock cooler. It's pretty good, about the same as the Ray Stealth cooler, quite honestly. And it's cheaper right now than the Ryzen 5600. The big hang-up for the 12400 and 12400F has been some of the B660 motherboards, and cheaper B660 motherboards weren't running it at the full frequency. However, BIOS changes have fixed those issues largely, so you can actually put this on one of the cheaper budget boards out there and have a pretty good gaming system. Will it supplant the Ryzen 5600? We'll have to wait and see. Let's jump into the CPU news, April 2024, because we got some spicy leaks and rumors around potential release date for Zen 5. This is like going to be Ryzen 9000 series CPUs. At least that's what we believe they're going to be called. This is based on the Granite Ridge architecture that is Zen 5. So this is the next generation of Ryzen CPUs, the successor to Ryzen 7000. And not all of this is leaks and rumors. Some of this is actually, we'll just show you actual evidence in a second, could portend a even earlier release date. So there's new BIOSes that have just come out from several different motherboards for both the ASUS and MSI. And as you can see down here, this is the support page for the B650 Carbon Wi-Fi. If we zoom in here, because I know this is probably going to be hard to read, it says the latest beta version includes support for updated next-gen CPUs. And this just rolled out a couple of days ago on the 12th. So we also seen this from ASUS on some of their boards as well. So this potentially portends an earlier release date, because remember, we initially heard through leaks and rumors we were expecting a fourth quarter launch this year. So that would be maybe sometime in October, November, December. And folks like Moore's Law is Dead, a known leaker out there, I'll include his video down in the video description. Check it out. He went through what does he expect in terms of an instruction per clock or IPC increase. In other words, what kind of performance increase can we expect, as well as when it can launch, basically saying that they want to get ahead of whatever Intel's going to launch in the fall. They want to basically kind of go for the kill a little bit here with Ryzen 9000. So they're targeting a Q3 release. Now Q3 starts in July, August, September. Could potentially be they announce this in Computex in June and launch it in July. Remember, that's basically what happened with Ryzen 3000, so we could be seeing the same thing now with Ryzen 9000 series CPUs. In terms of an overall instruction per clock increase, or you can roughly think of this as a performance increase, they're talking anywhere from about 15 up to 25%. Now, take that number with a huge grain of salt. AMD has a history of hitting somewhere in that 15 to 20% range, but different generations have seen different performance uplifts. And remember, IPC increases don't always necessarily translate directly into FPS in games. Remember, you can still hit a bottleneck in terms of the GPU. So some of the current generation CPUs are fast enough for a lot of the GPUs out there right now, and getting a faster CPU isn't necessarily going to help. Let's quickly punch through what do we expect in terms of pricing. Well, we just don't know. We don't have any real information out there where AMD wants the prices. I'd be shocked if AMD knew exactly where they wanted to price this at the moment right now. But let's go back to the current generation. This is the launch price of the 7600X, 7700X, etc. $299 for a 7600X was ridiculous. This is what AMD does when they feel like Intel can't offer any competition in these price brackets. They charge early adopters a massive price premium. This has been their history. Will they do it again? I don't know. The PC market's a little different this time out there. They're saying they want to get more aggressive, but we hear that every time, and then they always come out with this stupid prices, so we'll just have to wait and see. Of course, AMD may not need Ryzen 9000 to beat Intel. Intel might be beating themselves right now. There are reports, and Intel has confirmed that they're looking into this, that their 13th and 14th gen, and I use 14th gen in air quotes, CPUs are having stability issues right now. Particularly the K series unlocked CPUs, into which tons and tons, ridiculous amounts of power are being dumped into these CPUs. Super high power, super high temperatures, because they tend to operate at the thermal throttle limit. And gee, you get silicon degradation potentially. You get potentially other issues. Now, a lot of users are experiencing like an out of VRAM error-ish on this, especially when using NVIDIA GPUs. It looks like that this is probably an issue with the CPU, not the GPU, to the point that NVIDIA said, hey, if you got a problem with this, report it to Intel, not to us. And you have a lot of users right now reporting that they are having problems months on end with their i9 and i7 overclock systems here. So just something to keep in mind. Future Jason here, quick update as we're editing the video. PC World came out with a great article updating the whole situation. Now, it does appear this is limited to i9 CPUs. That's the 13900K and KF and the 14900K and KF, and I would assume also the KS, but not the 12th gen CPUs. Falcon Northwest came out with their system integrator. They put together systems, some potential updates in the BIOS that you can use if you already have one of these CPUs to kind of bring it back to life. Although they said they had two CPUs where there was nothing they could do for it because they were too far gone. So I'm going to leave this article link down in the video description. And for the time being, I would say stay away from the i9 CPUs, the 13th and 14th gen ones. Let's jump into the best CPU for gaming 2024 in April. And if you're not familiar with how we do this, we basically take all the CPUs that we've been talking about, we take their current prices, and then we take the setup. Basically, we take the cost for the RAM, the motherboard, the coolers, we put it all together and we get a gaming cost and a production cost. And then we basically take their performance, both multi-core score and their gaming score that's tied back to the i3-12100, and we get a price to performance. And this spreadsheet is linked down in the video description. If you want to jump in here, if you want to change the configurations to something that you like better or you think should be used instead, or if you want to put in your pricing, you can do that. Quick look at platform costs for April 2024. So this is motherboards, RAM, and coolers. You can hit pause on the video if you want to go through this, or just check it out in the spreadsheet as well. Generally though, motherboard pricing continues to decline, except for some reason B660 and B760, kind of cheaper Intel motherboards. There's fewer and further between. Maybe they're just not producing as many. B450 motherboards are absolutely on fire sale on the budget side right now. RAM, small price declines in terms of DDR4, but DDR5 prices are going up. They are going up just like we thought they would. Cooler costs largely unchanged. Jumping over the best budget gaming CPU 2024 in April. So this is where like the total platform price, $450 or less. So these are just budget gaming CPUs. Remember, that includes the RAM, that includes the motherboard, that includes the cooler as well. And a lot of these come with stock coolers, which really kind of help them. But look at this, the Ryzen 5600, what's gone on? It's got knocked off its perch. The 12400 is in front of it for the first time, I kind of think ever, to be quite honest with you, because they keep cutting the price on the 12400. They've finally gotten a decent price at $134, and those B660 motherboards, they have declined in price a little bit, and you can still find some of the cheaper ones out there, even though they've thinned out quite a bit. The 5600, it's not worlds worse than 12400. It's kind of probably technically tied with it in terms of price to performance. So if you still want to build a budget gaming system with a Ryzen 5600, feel free, feel free. But the Ryzen 5500 is an insane ultra budget gaming CPU. So if you just need the lowest cost in terms of your CPU platform, those B450 motherboards are so cheap right now. They're like down to 75 bucks for a decent one with a heatsink, with like BIOS flashback. It's insane. That's going to give you the best price to performance in terms of the ultra budget, the 12400 in terms of the budget. Although the Ryzen 5600 is right there. I really want to see that 12600 KF kind of leapfrog everything. The big problem with it is that you'd really like to see a Z series motherboard with it, with a 12600 KF, and you'd like a beefier cooler. You got to buy an extra cooler for it, and that kind of sets it back in terms of its value. Jumping over to mid-range production. So this is where the multi-core score is 170 or greater, and the price is $750 or less. At the top of the charts right now, the 12th gen i7 12600K, i5 12600K, haven't really heard any issues with those older generation CPUs. They use a lot less energy, and we're equipping those on more budget-oriented kind of mid-range B660 and B760 DDR4 motherboards out there because the price and performance of them is absolutely insane. If you're somebody who's looking to build a higher end creator kind of PC or something that takes advantage of tons and tons of cores, listen, the i7 12600K and i5 12600K, great values right now. The 14700K is in here. Unfortunately, your Ryzen 5000 and 7000 options just aren't very good right now. It's kind of a tough time for creators, I'll be honest. Jumping over the best mid-range gaming CPU in 2024, and this is where the gaming score 130 or greater, and the total price is $750 or more. And look at that, the Ryzen 5700X, 5800X3D, they've kind of risen to the top. You're like, what's going on with those? Well, some of you pointed out in the comments last time that you thought I was underscoring those CPUs a little bit in terms of their gaming performance. I went back, I looked at benchmarks, I looked at some more benchmarks. I agree with you. I've slightly up-tilted their performance there, basically on par with the 7600X for the 5800X3D and just 4% slower for the 5700X3D, and that's improved the performance. Now, these are for new builds. With those, of course, you're not going to get access to next generation CPUs on the AM5 platform. That's a big selling point of the Ryzen 7600. That's why it's the #2 selling CPU on Amazon right now. And you can put that thing together for $459 for the motherboard, the RAM, and everything else. And that's good stuff as well. And that's replacing the stock cooler that comes with it with a budget tower air cooler that's going to give you a lot better performance. Even the Ryzen 7700 makes a pretty good showing here with the new price cuts out there. And I have to say, I actually have in here that you're going to buy a mid-tower air cooler. You could save 30 bucks and get the 7700 because that Wraith Prism cooler is good enough for it and would even increase the value a little bit more. In terms of Intel, look, the 13600K finally making a better showing in terms of value here with the price cuts. Also, Z690 motherboard prices have fallen quite a bit. You can actually find some super high-end Z690 motherboards on absolute fire sale right now if you're just looking for tons of features. The 13600K might make sense for some of you, especially if you're looking for higher performance in terms of production. But the 7800X3D also comes in because, again, falling motherboard prices out there all around makes it a pretty good value. Let's jump into high performance production before we get to high performance gaming, because I know that's what everyone's always waiting for. And this is a tough one this month. I'm really not sure what to tell you. On the one hand, 7950X normally towards the top here in terms of price and performance. The CPU just, for some reason, costs like $110 more. I don't get it. I definitely don't get it. And Intel, which has dominated, absolutely dominated the performance production in terms of price and performance with like the 14700K, I still feel like we can recommend the 14700K for sure. We know that the issues seem to be related primarily to the i9 CPUs in the 13th and 14th gen, and air quotes, of course. So I think if you're looking for and you want right now some kind of production PC, the 14700K in terms of price and performance, still really, really good. And we did in our best builds in April, a 14700K build if you want to take a look at that, because some of those Z690 and Z790 motherboards that have super high-end creator features are on absolute fire sale right now, absolute fire sale. That being said, if you want to stick with Ryzen like 7950X, if you wanted to go that route, because you will be able to upgrade that CPU in the future, you're probably going to pay a little of a price premium for it right now. It is a little tough. Jumping over to the best high-performance gaming CPU, so where the gaming score is 160 or greater, and there is no price cap on it. And honestly, we all know the 7800X3D has been dominating this category month in and month out. Intel really had nothing here to offer in terms of that high-performance gaming, unless you want a hybrid system. And without any kind of real competitor out there, quite honestly, why would you do anything other than the 7800X3D? It's good on power. It's been good in terms of its overall performance. You can upgrade it in the future. It doesn't require as much cooling or as much power out there. hands down the best gaming CPU right now that you can buy. Let's play everyone's favorite game. Should you buy now or should you wait? Well, honestly, look, I know it can seem super overwhelming with these leaks and these rumors, with the Intel stuff going on. But honestly, I think for most of you out there, it's going to be a green light. Let's go budget by budget here. Let's start off with the ultra budget CPU and gamers out there. Listen, there's nothing new coming for you. It's going to be a while. Even if AMD tomorrow introduced the Ryzen 9000 series CPUs, the history is that they keep the previous generation, in this case it'll be Ryzen 7000 series CPUs, artificially high to force you to buy the new stuff. They've done that every single generation. They did it with Ryzen 2000 when Ryzen 3000 came out. They did it with Ryzen 3000 when Ryzen 5000 came out. They did it with Ryzen 5000 when Ryzen 7000 came out. I don't think they're going to deviate from that business model. They want you to buy the new stuff. The CPUs that we have right now are absolutely fantastic. I'd pick one of those up. The GPUs, we got nothing new coming anytime soon, but the GPU pricing is way better. Still got really, really low and historically low prices for like RAM, for SSDs, for other things out there. It's a great time to build a gaming PC at the budget or ultra budget range. When we get to the mid-range, it gets a little bit more complicated, but honestly, not as complicated, I think, at first glance. The Ryzen 7600 is going to get you most of the performance, if not all the performance, out of almost all the GPUs that we have out there, except like an RTX 4090, maybe a 4070 Ti or 4080. But if you're looking at anything in the upper budget range to the mid range through even the upper high end, I think the 7600 makes a ton of sense. And you're getting a great deal on it for $199. Yes, of course, you could wait for a Ryzen 9600. I don't know, maybe wait another 6 months or 5 months or something like that, pay an extra $100 and get the same, almost the same level of performance out of it. Just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I would go ahead and build right now. At the ultra high end is where maybe things get a little bit more murky, but honestly, can you with a straight face tell me that if I built a Ryzen 7800 X3D gaming PC system right now, that anything in the non-X3D lineup for Ryzen 9000 is gonna beat it? I don't think so. I just don't think so. Maybe the 9800 X3D, whenever that comes out, maybe that'll come out in July, maybe it'll come out in September, maybe it'll come out in 2025. It's just hard to say. But the 7800 X3D, I feel confident with any gaming GPU right now. That CPU is so far ahead of everything else when you look at benchmarks, 1440p and even 4K. I would just feel super confident going ahead and building at the high end. The only high end folks that I would probably put a pause on are the high end production folks, or if you want that high end hybrid system, unless you absolutely need it now. I know for businesses or for creators, definitely like, but Jason, I got to do stuff right now. I need a new CPU. Remember, check out those links down in the video description, including the spreadsheet, and jump in there, put in your own numbers, see what works best for you. And of course, if you got value out of this video, hey, give it a like. It really does make a huge difference to the channel. And of course, subscribe. Click that bell icon. That way you get notified when we release cool content. Hey, speaking of cool content, did you check out our best builds in April? We have two amazing builds in there that I'm super proud of. A $750 and $1,000 1440p gaming PC that's gonna knock your socks off. Check them out, and I'll catch you on the next one.